It's the Sunny Symphony Podcast. It's the Sunny Symphony Podcast. Talking sure's great when it's with a good mate. Oh, Sunny Symphony Podcast. Woohoo!
Hello. We are back for episode 2.
Yes.
Pie. I'm laughing because we were talking about this last night about we're still shocked that we're here.
Right.
I'm still in shock that we, last night I told you, I was like, hey, it's not a fluke.
It wasn't just one and done. We're actually here for a second episode.
We're back. It's great.
It's fantastic.
First off, just a reminder, we are not, we're not trained professionals. We're simply two people who are having honest conversations about mental health and just bringing you awareness. If you do need immediate help, feel free to call, 911. If you are needing help in regards to suicide, you can always give a call to our national suicide hotline, which is 1-800-273-TALK or 1-800-273-8255. But other than that, let's get started. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
I am Sassy. My pronouns are she and her.
And I'm SunPy, and my pronouns are they, them.
So, now that we've introduced ourselves one more time for our viewers, in case you guys are new to listening to, to this podcast, we wanted to introduce ourselves. But, Pie, tell me one fun fact about yourself.
We came up with this yesterday to come up with a fun fact about ourselves. Did you come up with one? I actually didn't come up with one. I need a noise.
Wah.
Exactly.
I mean, it's really funny because I thought about this today, like, what would be a fun fact? And I felt like, I was like, am I really just not this fun that it's so hard to think of? That it's so hard to find one. And so I was like, oh, this is bad. But I think that one fun fact about me would be, and this is my only claim to fame that I will ever have in my entire existence, is I was able to sing God Bless America at a Texas Rangers game. Okay. And yeah, so obviously to date, that is my largest crowd. And so, I mean, that would be my one fun fact. It was pretty crazy because I don't know if you guys know about baseball much, because I'm a big baseball fan. That's probably the only sport that I really fairly know about.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But it's the only sport that I'm really... Ask me about basketball. One night I was streaming and they tried to test me on basketball, and it turns out that I really don't know anything about it. But
I was there for that.
It was so bad. I was like, wow, I really suck at basketball knowledge. But baseball, it was supposed to be Beltre, which is one of our players. It was supposed to be his 3,000th home run. And so all season long, the crowds were 20,000, and I was already freaking out at the fact that they were 20,000, whatever. But since they were expecting it that night, it was 44,000 people. So like every seat in the park was filled. And let me tell you guys, I was supposed to go eat, okay? And I was like, okay, I have to eat something. Like, they were like, calm your nerves, just go eat. It'll be fine. And the next thing I know, they open up the curtain and I see the entire crowd. And at that moment, I lost my appetite because I thought I was just going to die, like
Oh my
seeing
gosh.
everybody. Yeah, so I was just so done, but I was thankful that it was on my bucket list. So I checked off something on my bucket list, you guys. I was so excited. And it will be my only claim to fame in my entire life.
No.
But hey, that will be my fun fact that I will hold on to. Other than that, you guys, turns out I'm not that fun.
No, you are so much fun. These are lies. She's lying.
Well, so are you. Okay. You have to have one fun fact. I know you do.
I thought of it. So, okay, our viewers watching live right now will be able to see. And I think this is a perfect segue also to our topic today.
Yes.
My fun fact is I love plushies. I
think this is why we're great friends.
I was looking at the back of your, I know, I was looking at all of them. But yes, I got this today. We got our first dose of the Pfizer vaccine. Woo!
Pfizer gang.
So in honor of that, my wonderful partner named this Pfizer, the dragon.
I love that.
And quick story today. If you don't know me, hi, I'm very squeamish. I'm very bad with needles. So I had to take a plush with me today, and the lady who gave me my shot, boohoo, was very, very nice about it. And
that's so awesome.
She was so gentle and sweet, which was fan-freaking-tastic.
I love that.
But afterwards, I was like, okay, I need to pick me up because that was a little traumatic because I'm a big baby.
No, trust me, I get it.
But then I saw this guy sitting there and he's like patchworked. And if you're watching, live,
I love that.
Or if you're watching on YouTube, I'm sorry, people listening to Spotify, you're not going to be able to see how wonderful this dragon is. But
you guys are just going to have to check us out on YouTube.
Yes.
I love that shameless plug in there.
Get that bag. But that's my fun fact. I love plushes. I will go to town on plushes. I would have the bed filled with plushes. I mean, you can see the back.
Oh, I totally get that.
Right here.
Except I have 2 dogs, so it's a little. I have to be very careful where I place my plushes. That's why, if you guys, for those of you who are watching live, notice there's not a plush at the bottom.
Yes.
For a reason.
I'm sure the little ones would just. It's mine.
I will say, before we segue,
right,
you said something about your wonderful partner, and I really wanted to kind of just go off topic for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be able, we were talking about this a minute ago, and we wanted to be able to kind of go off topic just for a second, because if you guys don't know, our significant others are both in chat right now. But for those of you listening, some of y'all will never watch our Twitch stream or our YouTube, so y'all won't really get to experience the greatness that is our significant others, which is Max and Aaron, and that's probably the only time you'll ever hear us really just like speak specifics about them.
Right.
But with that, I personally wanted to start by not only saying thank you to my loving husband, who you will be proud to know I do remember our anniversary, which is next week. But I wanted to say thank you for always holding the fort down with our 2 furballs, and just for being so great and bringing dinner when I need it, being able to just have my water cup filled when I need it. Pi just saw a minute ago, he ran in here to throw me cough drops to make sure I had them before it started. But Max, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for sharing Pi with me, because I know that in a journey like this, it's one of those things where you have to you have to be able to deal with our conversations outside of here, talking about our episodes and things like that. And if y'all don't know, I'm going to give you a small peek behind the curtain. Like, poor Max works early, and he will literally go to sleep while we're talking, and we're trying to like not wake him up, but he's like, oh, I'm going to put headphones in, I'm good to go, whatever. And I'm like, damn, like, he's the real MVP because he's so understanding, so amazing. And the thing about it is that we really lucked out because our significant others get along with each other.
It's so funny.
We were like, this could not have been a better thing. Like, it could have not been more perfect. And the fact that our dynamic works so great. So, Aaron, Max, I love you. We love you dearly. We love y'all both. And just from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you. And Pi, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Well, I wanted to add Aaron's little love, heart, and affection.
Heart and affection. Yes. Love, heart, and affection to both of y'all. For those of you who are listening, just, just all the love to our significant others. And we just kind of wanted to share with y'all a little bit about both of us and what that this really isn't a journey that me and Pi are just on, but our partners have to sacrifice that time that they spend with us so that we can get this together and just make this project work. So I just wanted to tell y'all both thank you, and we love you dearly. So with that, on to episode 2.
And so the topic for episode 2 today, since last week we decided to talk about things that we love, this week we wanted to talk about things that we struggle with, just to balance things out a little bit. But I think that's a great segue, like talking about our partners, because I mean, I don't know, I can't speak for you, but Max helps me so much with my anxiety, and he's so patient and kind when it comes to communication and like talking. So I feel very blessed and lucky to have a fabulous partner, but getting to topic of conversation.
I agree. Like we we're talking about one thing that we're both lucky about, and we're going to talk a little bit about this. And it's really funny to say we're lucky that we share the same struggle, but
right.
You and I both were talking about how we both struggle with anxiety. And, one of the things that you were just saying was like, you've been very blessed with a partner who's gotten you through that, and I laugh, I joke. Y'all who have been married long enough will understand that after a while you get to a point where you're like, I love you and hate you at the same time, and that's just how you express love, And so I always joke around with my partner, and I always tell him, I'm like, dude, you cause me so much anxiety, but I joke about that. But when I've had, panic attacks, or I've had my struggles with anxiety, my husband like drops what he's doing in order to be there for me. And that for me just is so helpful, because I think about people who struggle with this like alone, and I'm just like, man, I am so lucky,
right,
to have him there, and even when he's not here physically, he'll kind of just talk me off that ledge, and I'm like, oh, like, thank you,
Yeah.
But yeah, so, Pi, we talked about things that we loved, and today is going to be a little bit more hard hitting about, things that we struggle with.
Right.
And so I kind of wanted to just kind of start off with like us talking about the things that we struggle with specifically. Like, for me, I struggle with, anxiety, but I also struggle with like controlling my emotions. And so for you, like, what are the things that you struggle with?
So I, we were talking about it yesterday. Also, I struggle with anxiety, but I struggle with communication, probably because of the anxiety, but also because of things we just don't know about right now that's going on with my brain.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, it was really interesting when we had this conversation last night.
Right.
And I don't know where you guys are at, those who are listening. And if you're struggling with anxiety, like, where are you at? Like, have you been doing this for a long time? Have you just started realizing, you know, man, like, I may struggle with anxiety? Because it was really funny, not like haha funny, but like, whoa, because Pi and I are in two different levels of our journey with anxiety.
Right.
You know, with you, Pi, you were talking about how you've dealt with this for a long time.
Yeah. Like, okay, I've had anxiety since maybe high school. And part of it was definitely caused because of living situation and all that. But I used to have panic attacks frequently. I think it was like 4 to 6 years where I don't know how long it was, but where I had panic attacks frequently. And we were talking about this yesterday, and I finally got to a point with having panic attacks where I just got upset and angry, not at myself, but just the fact that it kept happening. And I was getting tired and frustrated because if you've had a panic attack before, it's not pretty. It feels like your body...
Not at all.
And it feels like your body's shutting down a little bit and you're out of control. But once I got to the point where I was angry. I was like mad that it kept happening, and I didn't want it to happen anymore because I didn't like feeling that way. So
Yeah.
I just, not full stop, because we were also talking about how with anxiety and stuff like this, it's like practicing every day, you know? But over time, it's gotten better, and I haven't had a panic attack in a while. And when I do, it's like they're not frequent. It's like once in a blue moon it happens.
Yeah, and that's awesome. You know, like for me, I'm hoping to get there because, you know, you and I were talking about this, and I was listening to you explain this last night, and I'm just kind of like, wow, I want to be there one day, you know?
Yeah.
Because as you and I talked about, you know, I'm still so new into figuring out what does anxiety look like for me, because it's something that I wouldn't say it's been a foreign concept, but it had been because, you know, with my family, you know, mental health has always had like a stigma. There's always been like this, you know, not that it's almost like all in your head, but it's like, oh, you can just control it, you're fine. And it's like, no, I wish you understood. Like, I'm trying to do this, but I can't. Like, it's beyond me. And so coming to the point where, like, I started having panic attacks this year, and I didn't know what that looked like. So for me, it was like, what is this going on in my head? And,
Right.
you know, for those of you who are watching right now or listening, this was the easiest way for me to explain it. If you've ever had a virus on your computer and you have like 100 tabs popping up on your screen, you know what that looks like. For those of you who have had a virus or have seen what that looks like, it's like a cluster, you know, and then it's like these 100 tabs are all playing something different. And then it's just like this overwhelming feeling. And the next thing you know, your computer shuts down and you're like, what happened? You're stuck. And for me, that's kind of what panic attacks have looked like, you know, and since it is so new to me, I'm like, how do I get through this, you know?
Yeah.
And so one of the things was listening to you talk about that, you know, and talking about how you got through your panic attacks really for me has helped like so much, you know? And so I really want for you to kind of share about that because I thought about this. I'm like, okay, now I know if I have a panic attack, this is what I need to do, you know?
Yeah.
So I remember you were telling me about like what you do to get through that.
So At first, it was kind of okay. Let me put a visual in your mind. If you've never seen a train track, in the olden days, they'd have somebody that would manually pull this lever and it'd switch the train tracks from going one way to the other. So when I first started wrestling with my anxiety, it was basically recognizing that the train track, like the controller, the lever, was right in front of me, and recognizing that I could take control. And it's hard, especially because sometimes it feels like, sometimes your anxiety does get out of your control, but it's the repetition and practicing of like noticing, recognizing that the lever's there and then grabbing onto it. And I think it was the frustration that got me to finally go, okay, fine, I'm grabbing onto it. I'm going to try it this time.
Yeah.
And it's like working out a little bit because every time you try to pull the lever, it's heavy. It's so heavy. And so it's hard to like switch your brain over. But I see panic attacks like I have the capability to let the train pass and like and let the emotions just like happen. Or instead, let me explain that a little further. Like, not let the emotions happen, but like, you know, if you've never had a panic attack before, it's hard to explain, but it's like
it really is.
Your brain gets tunnel visioned into, I have this anxiety and I'm holding it in me and I don't know how to get it out. So I'm just gonna, shut down. But recognizing that that track was there and that the train was usually driving on the panic attack side, and it was just gathering the strength and the knowledge to pull myself over, to switch the sides so that when I felt a panic attack coming on, I could say, I'm going to be in control of it, or at least try. And it's the trying every time that gets you a little farther. It's like if you go to the gym, you don't automatically, start repping 50 pounds. You start with the 5-pounder.
Oh, yeah. Please don't try that at home.
please don't try that at home.
So like, I know when we were talking about that, you had mentioned about how you work on controlling like, like your breathing and you try to control your thoughts,
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, I have found myself that I struggle so much with that, like trying to control my breathing, because then it's like panic, and you're just, you're at it's like you're at a dead stop. It's kind of like the what's it called? Like the deer in the headlights. Look, you're just like frozen.
Yeah.
You're like, what do I do? And I remember having a panic attack about 2 months ago. And it was the worst thing because I was just working and it came out of nowhere. And it was like, oh, this overwhelming feeling. And it was like, how do you, why am I feeling this? Why is this going this way? And the next thing I knew, I was like, okay, I'm hot. This is so bad. This is really bad. And then the next thing I knew, I was like, oh, I'm starting to feel overwhelmed. Maybe I should just lay down. And the next thing I know, I'm like right there on the floor, just laying down going, okay, what do I do? Because I felt like I physically just shut down, And so you talked about how like you control your breathing.
Right.
In order to get through that. So like, what is like, for someone who's still new to a panic attack, what does that look like? Like, how would you explain to someone like, hey, instead of just like control your breathing, like how?
I'm laughing. I'm laughing a little bit because I don't want to sound too cliche here or very yogi, but I'm like, meditation is the first thing I wanted to say. But let me explain what I mean by meditation, because if you've ever meditated before, the first thing that you do in meditation, right, is close your eyes. And the second thing is acknowledging your breathing, how it feels for the air to fill your lungs, go through like whatever the air holes in your in your body and come
Yeah.
out your nose. And I took that practice for when I was having panic attacks instead of, because you get focused and hyper focused on the questions of why is this happening and what did I
Mhm.
do and how do I stop it? And what I learned is instead of allowing my brain to go down that track, I say, hard stop. Where are my lungs? What are my lungs doing? And just feeling my
Yeah.
body and recognizing, okay, this is a flesh prison. This is my flesh prison. And
Mhm.
right now my lungs are expanding and now they're deflating, and focusing my thoughts on there.
Yeah. So, okay. So I know you talked about how you struggle with anxiety, and
Mm-hmm.
you said that another thing you struggled with was communication. And you said sometimes that could stem from anxiety. So, to me, I'm really curious about like how it ties, because I know with mine, I know that mine stems a lot from like me not controlling my emotions comes a lot with that. So I really am curious on how communication can stem from that.
um, with anxiety and communicating, I think I've always had like a little bit of social anxiety. Um,
Yeah.
and I want to say, because we talked about this and I wanted to bring it up, and hi, if you were there at stream yesterday, you know, but um, I'm on this journey of, mental health, but also trying to figure out and wrangling what's going on with my brain. And I have this slight suspicion that I have either autism or ADHD, or I'm somewhere on that spectrum. So
Yeah.
I think that ties into it, because when it comes to communication, if it's one-on-one, I have a very hard time knowing when it's my turn to talk, knowing like how somebody's feeling by reading their facial expressions. And
Yeah.
with the anxiety part, I think I just get in my head because I'm like, I don't know how they're feeling. I don't know how, like, vocal tones, if they're like
Yeah.
upset or if they're happy.
But I do think it's funny because for you, social anxiety is something that for you is triggered when you're one-on-one.
Right. Yeah.
And for me, social anxiety is the opposite. Like I can have a one-on-one conversation where I'm talking with like one person or maybe two, but then when you get into a bigger group,
Mm-hmm.
I shut down completely. Like I'm that person who's in the corner who will like, and I've realized this also, like it doesn't even mean like vocally. Like even in like chat, like with Twitch, like sometimes I'll start off fairly talkative, and I'm pretty sure if I've been in your stream at any time, people will probably go, "Man, where does she go?" Because like she just disappears. But like I can only deal with it in spurts, even when it comes to like just typing out in chat, because it's something that I struggle with, you know?
Yeah.
And I know that streaming has helped me a lot with that, because it's made me just go, okay, like, okay, I'll talk with chat, and I'm able to engage. But like you and I talked about this on Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
I started feeling overwhelmed. Like I for those of you who don't know, like I haven't been streaming regularly anymore, and that was a choice I decided to make, especially with us working on this project. Like I said, I was like, I want to give 100% to this, but I found myself, as I was streaming, I started to feel overwhelmed, and I'm just kind of like, hey, we're gonna just stop right here,
Yeah.
And but it's funny because we both have social anxiety, again, on two different sides of the spectrum,
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, when I'm in a group, it depends. If it's a group of people that I don't know and a large crowd, I will be with you and we will be hanging out together. Um, but if, like, let's say we go to a convention or we just meet up with our group of friends, I will be in the middle, in the circle, listening, because it takes away the focus from me speaking all the time, like on a one-on-one
Yeah.
conversation. And I mean, I have the option to just sit in the middle and listen to people talking around me.
So take note, if we go to a convention, I'm going to hide behind you. And just be like, "Hi, I'm Sassy." just go back.
It'll work because I think you're shorter than me.
I know. It doesn't help that I'm much shorter than you. It's just going to be like, just go right back. And that's something that I totally get, because, like with my struggle, it's the same, it stems the same way. And I think that it's funny how that works, because, with me controlling my emotions, you and I talked about this, and I think that it was great that you talked about how you had to you had to take control of your emotions, and just be able to go, hey, I'm gonna choose to not, let my thoughts control me.
Right.
For me, and I say this not to I don't say it to get pity. Like I told you that last night, but I never had to really deal with emotions most of my life. Like we were, I was just someone who did not talk about how I felt with things. And I remember, when I went to my therapist and we had a conversation, she asked me let's talk about things that, that you've been struggling with, or, hard things that have gone through your life,
Yeah.
And I remember just telling her wow, okay, hard things. And I was just like, my dad passed away when I was 13, and yeah, I was engaged once, and it was a domestic violence, relationship. I was engaged another time, and he cheated on me repeatedly. And I was like, what other hard things? And I was like, I lost my niece and nephew in a year. They were the same age as me. Let's see, what's another hard thing? And I was like, oh, my I was like, that's, pretty much it. And then she's just kind of like, really? You just glossed over that like nothing. And I'm just like, it's stuff that's happened. What do you want me to say? It's just happened, and she goes, geez, the next thing you're going to do, she goes, tell me. She goes, have you ever had a dog pass away? And I was like, yeah, I actually did. I said, when my dad passed away, my dog passed away a week later. And it turns out it was a broken heart. And I said, I go, and then, my dog passed away in 2018. I said, and that hit me really hard. I said, but I got another dog. And she's like, again, really? Here we are just glossing over things. And I'm like, yeah. Well, what do you want me to do? And she goes, I truly think that your anxiety stems a lot because you've never processed these emotions. She goes, you just kind of sweep them under the rug. She goes, and it's like this Tom and Jerry cartoon where you sweep stuff under the rug until it explodes, and the next thing you know, you're in just this wave of junk. And I'm like, I never thought about it that way, and I was like, it was an aha moment for me, and and it was one of those things where she said, have you not realized that you've suffered a lot of trauma in your life? And she said, for you've kind of just, because you've never shared about your feelings, you just kind of accepted this trauma as part of your life. And it's like, oh, this just kind of defines who I am. Not that it defines who I am, but it helps shape who I was. And it was just kind of again, I mentioned this in the first episode, when we talked about how with my family, there's been this stigma of just kind of it's the strong that survive, and so it was always a thing of be strong. You need to be strong. You need to just kind of dust yourself off, pick yourself up and go. But because I've had that mentality for so long, I never knew how to just address those emotions. And so I laughed because you talked about that with you got frustrated and angry and you had to learn how to take the reins. And for me, I'm just so used to just kind of I just shut down. And now that I've had to address them and really recognize them, for you hit that point where you had these emotions and you're like, I've got to take a hold of them. And I'm in the point of my life where I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this stuff I'm feeling? You know?
Yeah. And I think it's like separating yourself from, like, you are you, right? And your trauma is not the same thing. It's like making them two different identities or entities. It's making them two different entities. So
the funny part was I got exactly what you meant without you even just having to correct yourself. I was like, yeah.
But when you finally, like, instead of saying, oh, like, I am both of these, I am all of everything going on. But when you finally separate it and say, I have these emotions, but they don't define me, that's when you can finally learn how to be like, I am in charge. Because before, it's like, I think it's like a mental switch. It's like telling yourself that you're in charge. You are not a human who, like, is anxious and is depressed. You are a human that deals with, like, anxiety and depression, you know? It's like
so true.
Taking it out of yourself. And I think that's part of the first step of getting to the point where you can stop yourself from having a panic attack, because I can stop myself now.
So now like we talked about this, you know, like with the community, you know, with me, like I'm, you know, I just told you about how, like, for me, I struggle with really just like my emotions. Yeah. You know, for me, then comes the, oh my gosh, I have all these emotions, and I not necessarily lash out, but it's like, I'll have those moments where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling this, you know?
Yeah.
Or I do lash out. My poor husband has had to deal with that, you know, but you said you struggle with communicating.
Yes.
So is it that you just don't talk?
It's a little bit of, I don't know when is my time to talk. And sometimes my brain can't string up, or it feels like it can't string up the right amount of words or the right sentence. So it's sometimes it's like, well, if I can't say the right thing, then say nothing at all and just sit and nod and listen.
Yeah.
For, you know, people listening on Spotify, we just sat and we nodded at each other.
We just nodded. I'm telling you guys, catch our YouTube. Please check us out. Again, shameless plug. But but that's true though. Like, and I think that that's something that, you know, when we look at everything, at all of our struggles today.
Yeah.
It's really a matter of us having to take control of that, you know?
Yeah.
Just kind of looking at it, taking that step back and realizing that, one, it doesn't define who we are. You know, first and foremost, knowing that, I think in itself is a win.
Yeah. Yes.
But two, like, knowing that we have to take a step back in that moment. Because I think that a lot of times for us, like, what I've realized the theme in our struggles is we're very, like, you know, it's, what did we call it the other day? Reactionary. Yes. Like, it's very reactive emotions, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that if you take a step back in that moment and really just, like, I don't want to say make a conscious decision, but it is. It's actually making the choice to take a step back and go, hey, I'm not going to react to this in, like, just popping off, and actually genuinely going, okay, this is a situation in front of me. This is what this looks like. And instead of letting my mind, or both of our minds, like you said, taking that switch, because you know that if you switch off in that one direction, where it's going to head. Exactly. It's going to go in all kinds of directions, and I'm pretty sure that track will end somewhere. Right. You know, and that train's going to just go, whew, you know, or you make the decision to go, hey, not today. I'm going to switch it off
Right.
and go in this direction and just be able to handle it, knowing that you're going to just take it, not necessarily slow. Because I think if we're being honest with ourselves, there are times where no matter how hard you try, everything goes fast because of the situation. You know, sometimes there are things that you can't control, and those situations are going to be very fast paced, and you have to just go, you know?
Yeah.
But just making the decision of going, okay, I'm going to get in front of this problem, and I'm going to, you know, allow myself to just take control of how I can handle it. Because I think that, you know, you and I talked about this, was we have to learn how to be able to control what we can control.
Yes.
And be able to let what we can't control just do its thing. I mean, we because we can't control it.
I think part of it is also we tell ourselves, like, I'm not in control of my emotions, so there's no point in trying. And it's when you have the mindset that you can't do something, or you tell yourself, I can't do this, you automatically, like, you're giving that to yourself. But if you say, I can try to control it, I can control it, you're giving yourself permission to at least, you know, attempt to, and like have the space in the room to grow into being able to control it a little more. I do want to say, somebody in our audience, a viewer today, said making sure you control the emotions instead of letting them control you.
That is 100% truth. Like right there. Like that sums it up.
I know, I saw that and I was like, I gotta say this because that is chef kiss.
Well, you guys, I realize that we've now hit, like, it's crazy. We've hit the end of episode 2. Like, we've actually, you know, we did it, you guys. So to just kind of, you know, for those of you who are listening, just to let you guys know, Pi and I are going to take next week off. So episode 3 will come out in 2 weeks. If you guys do, you know, if y'all are on Twitch, feel free to follow our channel, which is twitch.tv/Sunny Symphony Podcast. You can find us on YouTube by searching Sunny Symphony, or you can follow us on Twitter, Sunny_Symphony.
Woohoo! And you can find us on YouTube by typing in Sunny Symphony, or on Spotify. You just type it in and it pops up. It makes us very excited to see it. We hope you get
it really does.
We hope you're just as excited as we are.
But with that, we hope you guys will join us in 2 weeks for episode 3. But until next time, I am Sassy.
And I'm SunPy.
See you later.
Bye. It's the Sunny Symphony Podcast. It's the Sunny Symphony Podcast. Talking sure is great when it's with a good mate. Oh, Sunny Symphony Podcast.